Good morning, all. Again, appreciate everyone finding time to join us today. I think this is who we'll have, because I know two of them told me, two of your fellow members told me that they were not going to be able to make it. I'm guessing the third one isn't. So let's go ahead and get this meeting called at 10:06 today for the Impact Fee Advisory Committee meeting. Again, we'll start off with roll call first to make sure we have everyone in attendance.
We have a quorum.
4 of 7.
Am I miscounting?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes. Thank you.
Yep. Appreciate that, Kurt. So we'll go ahead and do roll call for this. Josh Cummings.
Here.
Stephanie Hansen.
Here.
Spencer Martin.
Here.
And then John Wardle.
Here.
David Fulkerson is absent, John Nesmith is absent, and Melissa Carrico is absent. For today, on your mics, there's a green button, red button. If you want to engage in discussion, please make sure your mic is on so that we are recording this on YouTube so that the individuals can hear all of our conversations. With that, I have provided you with today's packet. On the top is your agenda, followed by the supporting documents. So let's go through the agenda first, which is adoption of the agenda. Today we have the discussion of topics 1, 2, 3, and 4. Please ignore the approval of minutes. That was my error in not removing that from this posted agenda. That was my error, so please ignore that. And then the final item is adjournment. So committee members, are there any changes to the agenda as posted with the notation that the approval of minutes will not occur?
Move to adopt.
Cool. I appreciate it. We'll go ahead and adopt the agenda as posted. So with that, let's get into the discussion topics. The first one is fiscal year 22 impact fee fund balance report. And I'm going to combine number 1 and number 2 together, if you don't mind. Or actually, I apologize. I will not do that. It's the next one I'm going to combine. So fiscal year 22 impact fee fund balance. In the attached paperwork, you'll see a paper-clipped item. The top page of that paper-clipped item is what we're going to look at. Looks like an Excel file with about 10 columns of data. Again, this is the same financial report I provide you every year. This is an update to where we finished fiscal year 22. Again, I apologize, we've not met since we finished our audit back in March, but this is our update to you on how the fiscal year 22 ended. So we do have this report divided in our 3 reporting groups: police, fire, and parks. And I'm going to start at the top group, which is the police department. And I'm going to be referencing the fiscal year 22 column, so FY 2022 column. For the fiscal year ended and audited, the revenue finished at $469,000. We had a little bit of operating expenses, which was associated to the impact fee study that we all approved in 22. And then the police department did spend $1.14 million on the Northwest Precinct. At the end of the day, they did utilize some of their fund balance of $681,000, so their fund balance did reduce from $2.7 to $2.0 million. Again, this was anticipated. We do save up our funds before we spend them. So we build up our balances, then we spend them, and the police department is currently spending their fund balance on the Northwest Precinct. And you'll hear that referenced in fiscal year 23's action items for numbers 2 and 3 as well. So again, at the end of fiscal year 22, the police department ended up with a little over $2 million in their fund balance. And we have projects going forward for fiscal 23. With the fire department, for fiscal year 22, the total revenue generated was $2.2 million. And as you can see from the police and the fire is pretty flat for our revenue streams year over year over year. The last 3 years has been pretty even, which is great. Again, we did have a little bit of operating expenses associated to the impact fee study. And then the fire department has been working on their Northwest fire station, also known as number 8, their Southeast fire station, which is known as number 7. And they're also acquiring a new ladder truck to assist those new stations. So in the end of At the end of fiscal year '22, we did tap into our fund balance of about $800,000. So the fire department ended fiscal year '22 with $6.6 million in their fund balance. And then you'll hear from us a little bit later about what's going on in '23 to continue to draw down those funds for their projects that they're working on. Last department that we report on is the Parks Department on this particular report. So fiscal year '22, the total revenue generated for the Parks Department is $3.6 million. You will see a negative value of $287,000. That was from an investment adjustment that we had to acknowledge in fiscal year 2022. So again, that is from investments. That had nothing to do with the impact fees or anything that you manage on your side of the fence. That had to do with the investments and acknowledgement of short-term or long-term gains. Again, that was an accounting adjustment. We did have some expenses for $10,000 for fiscal year '22. And then capital, you can see the majority of their expenditures are currently residing in the Discovery Park construction of about $6.2 million. So at the end of fiscal year '22, like the other two departments, the Parks Department did tap into their fund balance of about $2.6 million. So fiscal year ending '22, they had $13.3 million available in their fund balance for use in future years. So all in all, the revenues for fiscal year '22 for all impact fee eligible departments, we ended up at $6.3 million in revenues. Again, a little bit lower than the two previous years, just a little bit. Total expenditures, we spent $10 million. Again, these are all anticipated expenditures. You can see it's kind of a high peak in the last 5 years, but which is good. We've been saving for these days. All in all, the fund balance did utilize $4 million of the fund balance that we've been saving for, and we ended the fiscal year at $22 million of fund balance to be used in the future. I did provide you two other pieces of, or two other reports or graphs to support this report. The first one is City of Meridian impact fee revenue by type. This is just a visualization to assist you what our revenue sources are or have been over the last many years. And you can see residential is still the dominant revenue source for the City of Meridian. You know, we had some multifamily back in 2018, 2019, show a pretty strong opportunity there. And it's been pretty consistent since then. But commercial, you know, still, it's been growing the last few years, as you can see on this graph. But wanted to show you that residential is still by far our most important revenue source for the impact fee revenue sources. And then the last page is just a cumulative representation of the fund balances. We save. You know, we got our high water mark in '21, and now your departments are starting to spend those monies as they've promised you. And that is a representation, just a visual representation of where we stand for our available fund balance for future projects. So those are our fiscal year '22 results. Again, all positive results. Again, we did pass the impact fee study update, which had new rates. Again, those aren't respected in the fiscal '22. You should start seeing those in '23, '24, '25. And when I get to the '23 numbers, I think you'll see that the numbers are showing a higher revenue source because of those higher rates that we did get approved by council and the citizens. So I'm happy to answer any questions on fiscal year '22 data that we just presented to you before we get into the fiscal '23 financial update. So I'm happy to answer any questions on '22 if there are any. Yes, John.
On. There I am. A couple questions on this. And maybe we get into this when we talk about '23, but on this spreadsheet, where it says fiscal year 2023 year to date, the numbers look, are they actually estimates for 2023 as a whole? And just want to restate the calendar we're dealing with here is October through September, is that right?
Cool. So I'll go with your last question first. Yeah. Fiscal year is October to October. It's October 1 or October 1 to 9/30.
Yep.
So you are correct. That is our timeline. your first question, fiscal year 23 data, that is year-to-date as of today. So those will coincide to the report, the other 3 pages I gave to you later for item number 2. But if you want to discuss 23, I'm happy to discuss 23.
No, I don't want to jump ahead yet. I just wanted,
Okay.
it just said year-to-date, but the numbers looked pretty similar to what we have been collecting in 2022, so we'll get there. And do we really need to, is the last column where it says total, is that just more of an FYI of what's been collected?
FYI.
If you were to aggregate these, not really anything we need to pay attention there, it's just,
Confirmed.
okay, thanks.
If anybody ever wanted to know how much money have we ever collected, there's your totals. Yes,
Thank you.
Josh.
Todd, just a question on the Parks Department, the cash donations for capital. Were those,
Cash donations for capital.
were those cash donations like one-time gifts to the city Parks Department from like an estate or something, or? Looks like 114,000 was this year, and looks like several years ago in 17 there was a $425,000 cash donation for capital. I'm just kind of wondering what that source is.
Great question. Let me look at it while we continue our discussions. I don't have that one off the top of my head. I apologize. Yeah, I'll get you that answer before we leave. Any other questions for fiscal year 22? All right. Well, let's start with John's questions on fiscal year 23. I did attach 3 other pieces of paper. They look more like a financial statement, handwritten, fire, parks, police on top of them. They do, or they should, be very similar to the data that is on the spreadsheet. So if we wanted to go use this, the 3 sheets of paper, that's where I'm going to refer to. So the first fiscal year 23 report I'm going to refer to is the fire department. I'm going to go alphabetical. What you have here is the actuals, as John was stating, the numbers look similar in revenues to our previous year, and that is primarily because we got those rate increases. So we're 7 months into the fiscal year, and you're already generating the same amount of revenue that you did for 12 months, and we're in our high peak months for permit pulls. So again, you're seeing a direct result of those higher increases in those permit values per. So again, 2023 should be greater than 22 when we're done, and 24 should be greater than 22 because of those rate increases. So John, you are correct. You are reading that the numbers look pretty flat, but we're only 7 months into this. So they should be much larger than 22 when we're all said and done. With 23, so the fire department, like you said, John, we've collected $1.4 million year-to-date so far. Again, we still have a handful of months left for this fiscal year. We spent a few dollars in professional services, and then the majority of the expenses that we've spent so far today is associated to station number 7 and 8. The projects that we have budgeted for in fiscal 23 are Station 7, Station 8, and engine number 7. On the first column is the budgets. We have $5.1 million in total budgets. We've spent $3.2 million of that so far, and you can see the majority of the budget resides in Station number 7. And if you recall, during our impact fee development, we did not have enough impact fees to pay for 2 stations. So that's why you see the the difference between number 7 and number 8. You're wondering why aren't the values the same? We're using a different funding source to get station number 8 completed because we only had enough money to build 1 station, so we use a different funding source. They're still building it, but from your perspective for impact fees, a very small portion of that second station is used to fund the development and construction of the second station. We have other sources we're using that for. So again, fire department, that's where we're kind of going on a financial standpoint for fiscal 23. Again, we'll have Fire, Parks, and Police present their project updates to you after we go through these financial results, year-to-date results for you real quick. Next one I'm going to go to, alphabetical, is going to be Parks. Again, Parks Department, we've collected $3.4 million. So again, the rate increases, you can see they're showing the results there. And a majority of their expenditures are going to be on Discovery Park. They've spent $2.9 million to date. The The 72,000 you see there, please ignore that. That's going to be moved out of this fund. That does not belong there. It goes to a different fund, but we'll get that cleaned up before the next set of financials. But the Discovery Park, 2.9 million, and you can see the budget's primarily associated, $8 million is associated to Discovery Park. Again, Steve will give you an update on Discovery Park project. And the last department we're going to review for fiscal '23, we've collected $398,000 year-to-date in revenues. And then their project, main project is the precinct. They've spent 1.3 million so far, and they budgeted 2.6, so they're getting close to being finished with that one. And for the fiscal year '23, you probably noticed that the revenues are going to exceed our budgeted projections, which is good. Again, we did go conservative on our budgeted projections. We weren't 100% certain on the impacts that the rate increases would have had on the development, but development seems to be still moving along even though we did get those rate increases. So from a budget to actual standpoint, revenue, we're going to exceed our budget, and we'll report to council on that at the end of the fiscal year. We will readjust our fiscal '24 budgets accordingly, but '23, you can clearly see that we're going to outperform our budgeted revenue projections with that. So I'm happy to answer any questions about our current '23 actuals. We are going to have the three directors, departments present to you with their project updates. You're happy to answer questions now or then, it's up to you. But if you wanted me just to hand this over to the three departments, I'm happy to do so, and then you can kind of ask questions accordingly. All right, we'll do that. So Tracy, if you want, we'll go Tracy, Charlie, and Steve. We'll just go down the line. So again, we have Tracy Bassachia. He's your police chief. He's going to give you an update on his impact fee projects. Then we have Charlie Butterfield, operations chief for the fire, and then Steve Sidaway Parks Department, and he'll give you the Discovery Park update. Appreciate it, Tracy.
So for our police precinct, we were pushed back a little bit just because of delay in getting the CMU block. So we're about 15 days off, but we're moving into starting to put in some roofing material, doing some of the internal walls and things on the project. Looks really good. We plan on having everything completed by October 16th of '23. So everything's within budget. Not too many change orders or anything like that. We've been really pleased with how things have gone. So not much to update. So it's all going smooth, which is good.
Thank you, Tracy. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, hi, good morning, members of the committee. Yeah, so a few updates with Station 7. So Station 7 is located on Lake Hazel between Eagle Road and Locust Grove in the corner of the Discovery Park down there. It's moving along quite well. We're expecting opening in the end of September. We'll certainly get that information out to you for the grand opening of that station. The project's been moving along quite nicely. We are on budget, on schedule with it. I'm pretty excited to have that open. Station 8 is about a month behind. As designed, we didn't do them exactly concurrently. We wanted a little bit of a step in between both of those, and so it as well, next to the police precinct up in the northwest section of town, moving along nicely. It'll be opening in October and is on budget, on time for the schedule that we're looking at with that. It's just north of the Owyhee High School. And then the engine 7, has been purchased, and we're expecting delivery of that engine in May. So for the expenditures of this fiscal year, we are tracking nicely, and I'd stand for any questions.
Thank you, sir. Steve?
Can I ask a question on that?
Definitely.
I know that Josh loves to drive things. Can he drive Engine 7 when it's delivered? No? He was too shy to ask that question.
I do have a serious question.
Seriously, yeah.
I would guess that Station 7 and 8 are going to be just modeled after 6 as well, with the grade delineation between the contaminated side and the clean side and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, we have spent a lot of effort in the initial design of that to really create an area mindful of carcinogen reduction to firefighters and making sure that the future of those who will operate in those stations, industry best practices as it relates to a carcinogen reduction program for all the firefighters. And it's actually pretty interesting to think about the building of those fire stations, you know, a 50 or 60, 70-year building will actually have firefighters that will spend their career in those buildings who have yet to be born, which when you think of the longevity is pretty fascinating and something certainly very proud of from a city perspective and a fire department administration perspective.
When it comes to the personnel side of it, I saw that there was an article that Boise was looking to add another fireman to each of their crews or something along those lines.
Yes.
Is that something that we're doing? We're good with what we're doing, or is that you know, if crews do get bigger or something like that, or?
Yeah, so a good question. Yeah, right now we do have a minimum personnel of all engines of 3. Industry best practices are a crew of 4, and we are certainly exploring that in conversations with City Council to move towards that.
But the fire stations, the physical facilities have enough, like, bunk space and everything?
Yes, there's 6 bedrooms per station, so we have the ability.
Thank you.
Just for the record, there are no bedrooms in the police station.
Or in the Parks Department. Well, I'm pleased to say that Discovery Park Phase 2 is going along very well. I just had a chance to visit it earlier this month, and I put together a little packet with some photos from my visit. The front page has kind of a list of the main amenities that are coming with the tennis and pickleball, the bocce ball court, the 40-yard dash, the basketball court, a new bike park and pump track, and the teen area has amazing new skate park. The hammocking area, sand volleyball, it's got new illuminated ball fields, new restroom, concession building, community garden, picnic shelters, paved walking paths, and additional parking. If you flip the page, on the back of that page, you can see the in-progress construction photos from earlier this month on the skate park. That skate park facility is as much of a sculpture and art piece, in my opinion, as a recreational amenity. It's just amazing, and it's going to be a great addition, and I'm sure very popular. They wrapped up concrete pouring on that just about a week ago or so, and that bottom photo on the back of the first page with the sunset kind of shows the day that they were finished pouring. The aerial photograph on the next page was taken the same day that I was out there. You can see the parking lot itself is finished. Ball field irrigation is going in the lower right. The skate park, you can't really make it out, but it was under construction that day with those same photos. And along the top part next to the existing ball field. The 40-yard dash at the bottom of that page is starting to take shape. This is one of the simpler, kind of smaller amenities, but one that I'm really excited about as just a little, it's going to be like this little gem near the existing playground. It's got these pressure plates that will start a timer, so you can race side by side, with, race against your dad or your mom or your best friend or whoever, and you can time yourself. You can race against each other, and it'll tell you what your time is, so you can see if you were faster or slower than last time. So that'll be fun. And then the pickleball and tennis courts. The fencing wasn't up yet while I was out there, but the paving had just happened, and so this is now the back of the last page. You can see the asphalt there. Fencing was starting to go in around ball fields. The lights were up for the ball fields, and they were starting to work on the controllers. That's what the trucks are at the base of the light pole are. So lots and lots and lots of activity going on out there. We are on budget and on time. In fact, not to jinx myself, but we're a little ahead of schedule. We're scheduled to open next spring. We plan to be done with all the heavy construction this fall and seed it, but we can't open a park with fresh seed. So we've got to let a chance for the grass to establish before we can open it to the public. So exact opening date TBD, scheduled for next spring, but we're doing well. The biggest activity out there right now is the bike park. It just got started a couple of weeks ago. When I was out there to take photos, it hadn't started yet, so I didn't have any photos of that. It was just a big mound of dirt that didn't look like much. But since then, construction has started in earnest on the bike park portion as well. So we're looking forward to getting this great new amenity added to Discovery Park and getting it open, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve on the parks updates? Go ahead, John.
I just want to make, I guess, let everybody know or aware that we have been participating with ACHD in the city of Meridian on a CDA for the Lake Hazel improvements. It's about a half-mile Lake Hazel and then a portion of recreation. The Parks Department built the rest of recreation. The opening of that roadway also facilitates the opening of the fire department. Again, not to jinx ourselves as well, we feel like we are ahead of schedule. There's been close coordination with the staffs on that, but when it's all said and done, there's going to be some nice roadway improvements in front of Discovery Park. So just want to put on the record that we are participating in that project with the Parks Department, I guess with the city and with ACHE to make certain roadway improvements occur.
Well, definitely appreciate that relationship with you and Dave and Brighton. So again, and when you're referring to the roads, again, maybe the other committee members might not understand where you're talking about. Using this picture, Steve, Charlie, John, whichever one, would you mind showing where the road improvements that you're referring to are, John, and maybe Charlie or Steve, where the fire station is located on this map for your other three committee members that might not know what you're referring to?
Not knowing exactly the diagonal number here, you know, if it's 30% or 45%, but kind of up in the upper left corner of this, that's Lake Hazel. And then recreation would be kind of cutting through the middle of the picture here on a diagonal as well. So you can kind of see where all those trucks are parked. That's the part that's finished of recreation right now. And the part to the north, which looks like dirt, that is dirt. That's Lake Hazel right now, which completely was removed and being rebuilt. At completion, it's a 5-lane roadway. And actually, there's a 10-foot sidewalk on each side of Lake Hazel as well. So that will be a continuous pathway system along the north of the site.
I appreciate it. And fire station location to give them give them an idea of using that same map.
Yeah, I think actually on the very front page is a pretty good understanding where you have the future fire station in the upper right-hand corner. So that road will continue up to a traffic signal along the right side of the page, on the front page. And then you have Lake Hazel Road across the top. So certainly would echo profound appreciation with the support of Brighton in this cooperation with the city.
I appreciate it. Go ahead, John.
Just to be clear, I was not asking for accolades. I just wanted to make it known that we are participating in that. So if there's ever a question about impact fees and things like that, just on the record that Brighton is working as the project manager on that CDA. But yes, we are glad to partner with the city at all levels. They've been a great partner and have brought some great things, and we're just happy to partner with them. So,
Well, we're happy to give you accolades, John. And we'll give Josh, it sounds like he wants to drive your engine, Charlie, so we'll work on that.
what about a police car?
All right, there we go. Steve, I've got a few questions about, am I reading this right, that there's going to be the pump track and a bike park are two separate entities, it looks like in the kind of right along Lake Hazel?
They're not along Lake Hazel. They are down in that, in this, if I can just hold this up, this brown
Okay.
portion on the corner. That'll be both the bike park and the pump track. The pump track will be closest to the entry, and will be asphalt. And then the bike park itself is dirt, more of the BMX style dirt, bike park with jumps and stuff. But the pump track itself is asphalted, part of the same area, adjacent but somewhat separate amenities.
Okay. As far as the overall size in relation to like the Eagle Bike Park, which I'm pretty familiar with, is it about half that size or a
I
third?
don't know if you're including all the trails in the foothills, in which case it's not
including
even
that.
close.
I mean, they've got the pump track, which is dirt, and is a pretty small track.
Yeah, I haven't compared the two. I know they have their little bike park area at the bottom of the, near the parking lot area of, below the main trails. It'll be similar to or a little bit larger than that. It's smaller than Boise's bike park. Boise's has 3 lines. We have 2 lines, a beginner and intermediate, and then the end of the intermediate is going to split off with a short section of expert at the end of it, where you can stay on intermediate or go to a couple of expert jumps. But
I don't know how many bones you want to break.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and while it doesn't show it, there's an area in phase 3 below this. This is not the southern end of the park. So there's phase 3 area below this. It's not nearly as big as phase 2, about the size of a couple of ball fields. But we plan on those being just, we call them rectangles as opposed to diamonds. The ball fields are diamonds. We'd like some just open grass space that could work for just, any kind of flex use, whether it's soccer, grass volleyball, lacrosse, football, whatever, or just picnicking, you know what I mean? Just grass. So they won't be designated fields, at least at the moment. I mean, we haven't designed phase 3, so ask me in a few years, and I'll let you know. But currently, we're planning on those being rectangles, not diamonds, I guess is how I'd put it. And where I was going with that is, if we wanted to expand the bike park slightly, we did just get a great hire of a bike park expert that is joining our team that can help us maintain this. And, if in the future we decide that we want to extend the bike park south in a future phase, there's an opportunity for that,
Awesome.
for it to grow into the next phase.
I see what you mentioned about the skate park looking like art, because it is quite beautiful. Has there been any interest from skateboard shops or something like that to do get together and I see this as a potential venue that could bring, skate competitions to.
It's not open yet. I'm sure when it opens, we'll start getting calls. So ask me next year.
The last question I have is about the 40-yard dash.
Yeah,
Is it a pressure plate on each end?
yeah.
So it's.
So one to start it, one to end it. I can't remember if there's an electronic eye or if it's all pressure. I can't remember all the exact mechanics of it, but there's something that'll start a timer and stop a timer.
And it's hardy enough to.
Oh yeah, they've been. I experienced one of these myself in a park in North Carolina, and wanted to bring it here. So, but they're a standard catalog item. It's not like a special unicorn that we decided to make for ourselves. It's these are made and available, in standard playground equipment these days. So, kind of a unique one that you don't see a lot, but should be a lot of fun.
Money well spent.
Yeah.
Appreciate any other questions for our 3 departments that we work with. Well, Tracy, Charlie, and Steve, appreciate the project updates to these committee members. That gets us through the first three topics. The last topic is going to be, we're going to hand this over to Kurt, our attorney. He's going to give you an update on some discussions between the City of Meridian and Ada County on impact fees. So again, these are all discussions. I'll hand it over to you, Kurt, to give the committee members an update on discussions.
Thank you, Todd, and committee members. So glad to be here. So, the city, we're in a kind of in the backseat or in sort of a support position on this topic, so we don't have all the detail or expertise, but Todd and I both thought it might be a good idea to update the committee on what we do know about the subject and sort of what next steps might be coming down, that you ought to be aware of. So as you may recall from either from the media or from your businesses or maybe from discussions even here amongst the committee, the county has been looking at the possibility of impact fees for I think close to 3 years now, maybe a little bit longer. And they actually did an initial feasibility study back in 2020 that looked at sort of in a kind of at a 30,000 foot level what that might look like and what fee categories and so forth. From my perspective, the process has kind of started and stopped several times, and I think right now I would kind of characterize we've been in a pause mode for the past few months, although I was just talking with county personnel this week, yesterday, and they are kind of revamping or re-energized on what they plan to do, so I'll talk to you more about that in a moment. But the county did hired a consultant, and between the consultant and county staff developed an initial kind of feasibility study, looked at the potential for impact fees in the areas of things like for the jail, for EMS facilities, for the coroner's office and some related functions. Those are the three that really would impact the cities, including the city of Meridian. So I'll delve into that in a little bit as well. The county is very desirous of all the cities in Ada County they like all the cities to participate. They're obviously particularly interested in the larger cities like Boise and Meridian. But this is kind of a unique animal, and to the best of my knowledge, this would be the first in Idaho that sort of follows this particular path or this particular model where what the county is exploring is the idea of a county-wide impact fee that would not only apply to development in the unincorporated county, but would potentially be applicable to development within the incorporated cities as well, including Meridian. It's a unique animal in the sense that, probably our best comparison there would be the Ada County Highway District, but there's some important distinctions and differences between the two. In the case of ACHD, which has had an impact fee for some time, as you're well aware, and the city of Meridian, Boise, and others help partner with ACHD on collection to make that easier for customers and for businesses. ACHD is able to pass, under state law, they can pass their own ordinance that's applicable county-wide, and so they do what they do, similar to what Meridian does when we adopt or update our impact fees. ACHD has the same ability, and it can be applicable on a county-wide basis, meaning in the unincorporated parts of the county, but also in the incorporated cities. That is not the case with respect to Ada County. So Ada County, under the state constitution and case law, their ordinances only apply to the unincorporated areas of the county, and they are not applicable, not enforceable within the incorporated cities. So Ada County cannot unilaterally just adopt an ordinance, an impact fee ordinance, that would be applicable to all the cities. And so that is why they have, I believe they've approached all the cities, but I'll just speak for Meridian. They have at least approached the Meridian City Council sort of in a very high level, this is more than a year ago now, but just sort of a conceptual type discussion of this is what we're trying to accomplish, here's the rationale, and how it might work. So this one would be different in the sense that it wouldn't be just us agreeing to collect a fee on behalf, like we do, for example, with ACHD. This would be us doing that, collecting a fee on behalf of the county, but it would also mean we'd have to do virtually all the same steps we do for our own impact fees, which means advisory committee participation, the adoption of a capital improvements plan, the adoption of an ordinance, the public hearings, the notices, and the whole shebang. So it's fairly, when compared and contrast with the ACHD model, it's much more involved. The city council, my recollection, from that discussion was, it was really just sort of conceptual in nature. The city council, indicated they understood the impetus for the idea, and they were willing to have that discussion. There were certainly no commitments made at that time. And so whether, Meridian or Boise or any of the other cities in Ada County participate, still to be determined. And the process has been going very slowly on the part of the county. So on that piece, in terms of process and timeline, the county, they did prepare, as part of their initial feasibility study in 2020, did prepare a CIP that talked about what their facility needs might be and how that might result in an impact fee program. They actually presented that to their Planning and Zoning Commission earlier this year, and for whatever reason, they decided after that they wanted to update that CIP. So right now, they're sort of in a pause mode. They've re-engaged their consultant and their staff, and they're updating their CIP, or intend to. They haven't really started in earnest, but they intend to start soon on updating that CIP. So that's their next major work effort. And then after that, just sort of looking to the future, going down the road, they would need to then look, based upon what that revised CIP looks like, they'd have to do the analysis at that point with help from their consulting team to determine what that really looks like in terms of a fee program on a dwelling unit basis, for example. So that is a ways down the road. And then, once those things are accomplished, once the county accomplishes those things, they would need to represent to Meridian, but to the other incorporated cities as well, on what that CIP looks like, what the fees may look like, and then gauge whether the cities are interested in participating. If, for argument's sake, Meridian and others are interested in participating, then it means that, and really, as I mentioned just a moment ago, it means we're going through a full adoption of a fee program, essentially, where we'd be looking at the CIP and an ordinance that would implement the fee program. The part I don't know is, and I've never really heard a number, I'm not sure if Todd has or others in the room, but I've never heard a number attached to what that fee program may look like. They're looking at 3 particular fees that they would like to be able to collect within the incorporated cities. One, and I alluded to this a couple minutes ago, they're looking at capital improvements, their necessary capital improvements in the area of the jail, capital improvements needed in the area of the coroner's office, and capital improvements needed in the area of paramedics and emergency medical services. Those are the 3 categories, but I've never seen a number attached to, that hypothetically, if a program was adopted, the fee would be X for jails and Y for EMS. I've not seen that calculation. I'm not sure it exists at this point. So that's where it stands. I think it's just really just informational for the committee today, and I'm happy to answer, try to answer questions you may have, but it's really a county initiative. But I think the purpose of the presentation today was just sort of make sure it's on your radar screen to be aware. There's a lot more work to be done at the county before Meridian or Boise or Eagle or any of the other cities contemplate this idea. So my expectation, my thought is we're probably not going to see this. The cities will not actually see this issue before them for several months. I'm thinking perhaps late in this year or early in next year, but I don't have a definitive timeline from the county at this point. So that's sort of a 30,000-foot viewpoint of where that stands in the idea, and happy to answer questions you may have about that to the best I can. Todd may have some information about that, be able to help as well. So, any questions I can answer for you?
Yes, Josh, appreciate that, Kurt.
Kurt, that's pretty informative. Has the county made any, or what's like the Idaho constitutionality of the county saying, hey, we're going to take over impact fees for all the cities, and we direct you to dissolve your current boards. We're going to have an Ada County Impact Fee Advisory Committee that's going to then dole out the money to the cities as we see fit.
Yeah.
Is that something that could happen?
So I would answer the question this way. I think, so this is a little bit of new territory. I'm not aware of another model like this in Idaho, and the county has done something like this on behalf of a few of the rural fire districts, but really in terms of what I just described and what you're asking about, it's sort of new ground, really. I don't think it would work the way we just talked about. I think the way I envision in my mind is sort of two parallel programs. The city has its current impact fee program that would stay in place. This committee would stay in place. Our processes and our collection methods and all that we do today would stay in place. And so that is sort of one path, and that really no direct impact there. But the way I view it is if the county, first of all, if the county proceeds, and then if the Meridian City Council ultimately decides to participate and assist the county in that effort, I would say almost like a parallel effort that would be, it'd be separate but similar in the sense that it would have a different ordinance, but very similar to what we have today, but it would supplement, not replace our current impact fee ordinance. Whether, I think still to be determined, there is a requirement for an advisory committee, and to what extent I think the county would prefer to use its advisory committee, but it's possible this group may need to participate or maybe ought to participate. And so I think that part is to be determined, but really it's sort of two parallel programs. For ease of description, I'll say we'll have the city impact fee program, and it will pretty much stay exactly as it is today and as it's functioned for the last several years. And then hypothetically, we'd have this parallel program that is largely being done on behalf of the county and its capital needs that would run parallel, and we'd have to do all the steps to put that in place. But really, it doesn't replace or supplement the city program, that it would be sort of run in tandem. That make sense?
It does, and it sounds to me like additional government bureaucracy and inefficiencies. But as I understand it, the Ada County budget is primarily driven by property taxes. And are they looking at impact fees as a way to shift the burden to new development costs, footing more of that bill and giving property owners a tax break? Is that your sense of what they're trying to accomplish with this?
I'm not sure about the second part, if there's a direct correlation between sort of the impact fee idea and property tax reduction. So I don't know that part. I would probably defer to, not here today, but for county staff and electeds to answer. So I don't know about that part, but definitely on the first part of your question, the rationale that was explained to the Meridian City Council and also in their initial feasibility study was the idea, very similar to impact fees in general, including Meridian's, is that new growth has an impact on the need for facilities. And so a jail, for example, as population grows, there's need for additional facilities. So the idea is that there'll be a proportionate share that'll be contributed toward those capital needs. So that part is the same rationale as almost any impact fee program, is that as growth occurs, it's a way for growth to help pay for itself and the consequences or service demands that go with that. I'm not sure about that second piece, however, in terms of, would it be offset by property tax reductions or other reductions? I'm not sure about that aspect.
So, Jonathan, I've got a question for you as a representative of the development committee. Has it been, has the appetite for development in Ada County been stifled in any way, do you think, or would be in the future? Because right now Brighton does projects both within the cities and within the county, unincorporated areas, correct?
Putting on my developer hat here for a second, yes, we do projects in both. I don't know, it's interesting because it's always, any additional fee does cost, it trickles down. We all talk about affordability, attainability. I guess the thing that I'm interested in, this will probably be a conversation with Ada County, is because it is a county-wide issue, growth is just a small portion of the mobility factor in all of the county. Have they not looked at other mechanisms like bonding for some of these things? Because I would assume if they've raised the flag that there are a potential here, they've identified deficiencies in the system already, and I would have to assume that new growth won't make up for those deficiencies in any recent or in the near term. So I don't know. It's interesting. I would assume that they've thought that bonding for something like this is not palatable for the community at large. But if there's a need, it's much more than just the new growth that's happening.
On that topic, I don't know the answer to that either in terms of what other ideas or options the county has explored or they might be exploring in tandem with this idea. So I don't know the answer to that either. But just like, I did want to make one point, however, which is just like Meridian's impact fee program and any impact fee program in Idaho. Impact fees cannot be used to kind of go look back in time to make up for deficiencies. They can only be used to maintain your current service levels. You can't use them to backfill for past deficiencies, essentially. So they would be limited in that regard.
And for what it's worth, I think that Ada County did, aren't they, there's a new coroner's office being built, that's gonna be a much needed, service for the county, so they got the money for that through other avenues, and
Yep.
it just seems like it'd be more efficient to them, for them not to dip into the impact fee discussions.
So I'll just taking a step back, or maybe a couple steps back, I think you got the gist of this, but just to be crystal clear, the point of this presentation, we're not advocating for the idea or banging the drum or anything. Just wanted to keep you informed that this conversation is happening. There's been at least one high-level presentation to the council maybe about a year ago, and I think this will be coming back to all the city councils, not just Meridian, at some point in the future. So it's more just to make sure it's on the radar screen, that you're all aware of it. We'll keep you posted as we learn more, but we're not, as I said, the city council has not endorsed the idea or indicated that they intend to proceed. They just said we'll keep an open mind and learn more about it once the county does this work. So we're not advocating for it, just trying to keep you posted, and we'll do so as we go forward as well, and whether as other work is accomplished. Other questions about that?
Looks like none. I appreciate that, Kurt. Appreciate the discussion on this topic. And we'll keep you informed as we learn more about this over the next many, many, many months. With that, that is the end of the topics, number 4. Again, I did owe Josh a follow-up to item number 1. Josh did ask about what the cash donations for capital of $114,000 in 2022 and $209 in fiscal year 2023 year-to-date. To answer your question, that is my error. I was one line off. Those are interest earnings. So I apologize. That's my error. So I did update my spreadsheet. I moved them down one line. So we had 0 cash donations. Those are the actual interest earnings. So I apologize for my error there. Fair question.
Sorry to have another question, Todd, but
Yeah.
in fiscal year 17, the 425,
17.
or in 19, the 136, because those are separate, so it wasn't just a bump up dump.
I will have to do some research on those.
Sorry to give you more work. I was just,
I will find out for you.
if there's a mechanism for longtime Meridian residents to, that don't have heirs when they pass away, to bequeath, stuff to the city in that manner, I think that would be really cool and should be encouraged.
I don't recall what they are off the top of my head, but I will find out for you. Yep. Without any other questions, discussions by the committee members to each other or the subject matter experts here while we have them? John?
Move to adjourn?
With that, I move to adjourn this at 10:59. Again, appreciate your time, everybody.